Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining me. It's great to have you. And there, again, so much is going on. So let's just dig right in. And I got to start with the greatest news that's going on right now. And that is what is happening with Trump's efforts to end this war in Russia and Ukraine. As you know, I'm sure the American team led by Rubio, the Secretary of State, is meeting with Lavrov, his counterpart from Russia, and they are negotiating, and who knows what's going on behind the scenes, but we are talking. And as I said in my last video, this is wonderful news, and I believe that Donald Trump is not exactly in love with Volodymyr Zelenskyy as his predecessor was, and this is really good news. I think that Trump certainly respects Putin. I think he wants to have dialogue with Putin. I think that it's just a whole new day, and it's just so wonderful what's happening here, and hopefully we can see an end to this war. But I want you to listen to what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social earlier today with regard to Zelenskyy. I think the writing is on the wall for this guy. I don't think he has much of a future. You know, this war is a proxy war between the United States and Russia. There's no question about it. It's really not about Russia and Ukraine. And so Zelenskyy, and Trump knows this, folks, Zelenskyy is really not a player. He is wildly unpopular in Ukraine, where they're supposed to be promoting democracy, yet they don't have elections. They're throwing religious leaders in prison. Some democracy. And for that, of course, Biden rewarded them fabulously over and over and over again. But listen to what Trump posted today on social media, and I quote, "Think of it. A modestly successful comedian, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. The U.S. has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the U.S. will get nothing back. Why didn't sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization, in that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us? We have a big, beautiful ocean as separation. On top of this, Zelenskyy admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections. Zelenskyy better move fast, or he is not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit only Trump and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried." He's right. "Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelenskyy probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelenskyy has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues," unquote. Is this not music to our ears? Can you imagine ever hearing anything like this from Joe Biden? This is wonderful news, folks. Donald Trump is just completely undermining Zelenskyy. He is taking the exact opposite stance with Zelenskyy from Biden. I think Zelenskyy may have seen his last check from the United States. I certainly hope so. Trump is throwing him under the bus left and right. He is leaving him in the dust. He realizes Zelenskyy is a non-factor, wildly unpopular with his people. Won't have elections. Trump said that. I think that the future is bleak for Mr. Zelenskyy, and it should be. Maybe he can go back to being a comedian and playing the piano with his genitals like he did before. This is such an answer to prayer, folks, that Donald Trump has accurately assessed the situation. Trump is no idiot. He knows what's going on. And I think that the future is bright. So does Jeffrey Sachs. By the way, Professor Jeffrey Sachs is a brilliant man. You may have seen him. He's been on the Duran several times. He did his last interview that I'm aware of with Tucker Carlson, which I highly commend to you. He is wonderful, and he is encouraged by what's happening vis-a-vis Trump and Putin with the war hopefully coming to an end. I came across something today to shift gears on you here from Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense. Fasten your seatbelts. More great news for you. Pete Hegseth, this blows my mind. I had to go back and read it again. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Pete Hegseth has said he wants the Department of Defense budget reduced by 8% over the next 5 years. Can you believe that? If my math is accurate, that would be a 40% reduction in the defense budget. Am I right about that? 8 times 5 is 40, right? 8% reduction over 5 years. So in 5 years, the Pentagon's budget would be decreased by 40%. Glory, hallelujah. I've been calling for this for years, ever since I've had my show anyway. I mean, you're seeing this over and over again, folks. This is wonderful news. Fiscal responsibility, heretofore believed by me to be only an illusion in Washington, is actually becoming fashionable again. Elon is now he's been looking into all these different departments. Now he's going after the IRS. You go, dog. Speaking of the IRS, I sat down earlier today. I had everything ready to go. All my notes, everything was set up, lights on, camera ready to go. And I get a phone call from the CPA. Your taxes are ready. So I had to get in the car, run up to the CPA, which is like 40 miles away from my house, and I had to go through downtown traffic, and it's an adventure just to get there. But we don't have to go to prison for another year. We have to write a couple of big checks, one to Uncle Sam and one to Governor Ivey here in Alabama. But we're squared away for another year. But so I'm glad to report that. But Elon Musk is even going into the IRS, and the Social Security Administrator resigned evidently in protest. He's going after that. And of course, as you may have heard, he is finding millions of people on the Social Security rolls that ain't even alive. I mean, he's finding people that are well over 120 and 30 years old that are still getting Social Security checks. Now, of course, being the fact that I am advancing into seniordom and I am only a few years away from collecting my own Social Security, this is of special importance to me because I said to Marina last night, because Trump has kind of alluded to this, maybe we could bump up the Social Security payments for seniors once we get rid of all the waste and fraud. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I mean, for heaven's sakes, you're sending checks to dead people. You're sending Social Security checks to illegal aliens. It's time to tidy things up a little bit, don't you think? And now, apparently, Elon Musk is going to go check out and see what's happening at Fort Knox. Been a lot of speculation over the years that, people wondering what exactly is at Fort Knox, and do we need to audit Fort Knox just the same as we need to audit the Federal Reserve and then eliminate it? So we shall see what happens there. But anyway, that is fantastic news if he actually does that, and perhaps he can. He is the DOD, the Secretary of Defense. He says, let's cut it 8% for the next 5 years. That sounds wonderful to me. All right, I got to get to a little media that I want to share with you right now. There is a pastor of a mega church in Atlanta, And this pastor's name is Jamal Bryant. He is the pastor of a mega church in Atlanta, and he went on a rant here. I believe it was last Sunday that I want to share with you right now. Let's roll it.
On Public Enemy, I came to tell white supremacists. I came to tell MAGA. I came to tell white privilege. We coming, we coming, we coming. We coming, we coming. God said, when you give me glory, I'm gonna run them out of the State Department. If you give me glory, I'm gonna run them out of Congress and run them out of Senate. If you give me glory, I'm gonna run them off of your job and run them off of your classroom. I need you to take your neighbor's hand and say, neighbor, we gotta shout like we got faith.
Okay, that was Atlanta megachurch pastor Jamal Bryant going on an anti-MAGA rant in his pulpit or on his performance stage. And he says, I came to tell white supremacists. I came to tell MAGA. I came to tell white privilege. We coming, we coming, we coming, we coming. I said, when you give me glory, we're going to run them out of the State Department. You give me glory, we're going to run them out of Congress. What particular scripture were you using, Mr. Bryant, to support your theological ramblings in your little rant this morning? So you're coming to tell white supremacists, and I came to tell MAGA and white privilege. So I am left to assume, because you're not getting any more specific than that evidently everybody who aligns themselves with MAGA is a white supremacist. Is that true? Or they have white privilege? By the way, your church must not have much of a appeal for honkies like me, apparently. I don't think too many white folk would be visiting your mega church only to get insulted by you, Mr. Bryant. You came to tell white supremacists, MAGA, and white privilege, we coming, we coming, we coming. What are you coming for? Where are these white supremacists? Where is this white privilege? What the hell are you talking about, Pastor Bryant? What is this white supremacy? Tom Hanks went on Saturday Night Live, which I haven't seen since Dana Carvey left the show decades ago. And he did this stupid little skit where he dressed up as a redneck white guy with a MAGA hat on, acting like a white supremacist who wouldn't shake hands with a black man. Whoa, whoa, whoa! I ain't gonna shake your hand. Like every white person who supports Donald Trump and aligns themselves with the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again. Something wrong with that? Evidently, we're all white supremacists. Evidently, we're all exercising our white privilege. Why do you have to align? And shame on you, Tom Hanks. Did I say Hanks or Cruise? It was Tom Hanks. Forgive me if I said Tom Cruise. It was Tom Hanks. So everybody who is white and in MAGA is a white supremacist. And we coming, says Jamal Bryant. Well, what are you coming for? Who are you coming for? And what are you going to do once you get there? Because I'm white and I support Donald Trump, I'm a white supremacist, Mr. Bryant? Preacher Bryant? Is that how this goes? These people are so shallow, they're so vapid, they're so childish. This is why you're losing, Democrats. You're not running on anything of substance. This inflammatory rhetoric is getting you nowhere politically or religiously, if you ask me. And one more little personal note for Jamal Bryant. What is the deal with preachers on these performance stages dressing like thugs in hoodies? What kind of a cleric dresses like this? I mean, don't most preachers in America at least wear a nice suit and tie? I'm not trying to be a prude. I know that a lot of these mega church pastors, black and white, walk around with their shirt tail untucked and, you know, their hair slicked back and whatever, because they're trying to be modern, hip, and cool and with it. But a hoodie? I mean, have you ever heard of clerical collars or cassocks or... I like for a clergyman to look like a clergyman. You know what I'm saying? If you're sick and in the hospital and you want your clergyman to come and offer some prayers for you, I don't mind showing up in a hoodie. I don't know about you, but I don't. Put some clothes on and act like somebody. Jamal Bryant. This thing you call a church, this is just I don't know what you want to call it. Let me not get all theological on this guy, but this is just ridiculous. I mean, give me a break. Where's your Bibles and your bishops and I mean, it's just a bad performance that you could have held down at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta. This is just performance art. That's all it is. There's no sacraments here. There's nothing that signifies your place as a church as far as I'm concerned. You can comment down below and tell me what you think, but they coming. I don't know what they're going to do once they get there, but they coming, because all of us white people who vote for Donald Trump are obviously white supreme. I'm so sick of this crap. It's just so lame and so lazy to refer to anybody whose skin color is different than yours and a supporter of Donald Trump that they must be a racist. I mean, that is just, come on, man. You can do better than this. It's just ridiculous. All right, a couple of more things for you. You may know of Russell Brand. Russell Brand is a British comedian who got woke in the right sort of way, if you will, meaning he came to his senses, I don't know, a few years back. Russell Brand has a podcast, and he sat down recently with the great Mike Benz, who has been making the rounds. He's been on Tucker. He's been on Rogan. Man, I'd love to talk to this guy. Mike Benz is the one who, as far as I'm concerned, is more responsible than just about anybody else for exposing the USAID scandal and all of the corruption involved therein. And Mike Benz sat down with Russell Brand, and he basically said that the CIA, NATO, British intelligence, and George Soros is all the same thing. Roll it.
So he was, you know, that meme of two photographs and you look at them and you say it's the same picture. When you see NATO and you see Soros, they're the same picture. When you see the U.S. State Department or the UK Foreign Office and you see Soros, it's the same picture. When you see the CIA or British intelligence and then you see a picture of George Soros, it's the same picture. They're one blob.
Okay, that was Mike Benz on Russell Brand just saying it's all the same thing. The CIA, NATO, USA, British intelligence. It's all the same thing. George Soros, the same blob. I believe he knows what he's talking about. He certainly has known what he's talking about up till now, particularly with USA. This thing is just so incestuous, and the tentacles are going everywhere, all over the world. So many people profiting off of our warlike foreign policy that Trump is finally, thank God, reining in with Elon Musk. Thank God for Elon Musk. And, Mike Benz just cuts to the quick, and he identifies that all of these entities are essentially the same monster, if you will. All right, one more thing. There's a girl on TikTok. I don't know who she is. Her name is Melissa Power. Melissa Power. And she has, I guess, a TikTok channel. I'm not on TikTok. I am on X, if you want to follow me there. And, of course, obviously YouTube. Melissa Power is whining and crying because federal workers are losing their jobs, and she's just distraught about it. How can this be? How can this be? These people are losing their jobs. This is what Melissa Power had to say about all these federal workers losing their jobs. Roll it.
What I'm finding incredibly sad is the idea that people are cheering the fact that all of these people, all these federal workers are losing their jobs. These are real people. How are you okay with this? It's not okay that people that work in national parks are being fired. That's not okay. Like, this is awful. And how are we going to get the economy back to where it should be if we're firing everybody? Like, what do you want to do with all these people?
Okay, that was poor Melissa Power, who's worried about all the federal workers losing their jobs, and she singles out, of course, national park workers. Now, this is what kind of got me interested. As you may know, I am, I don't know if you call it a hobby or certainly an interest of mine, is camping. I love to take my camper. I got videos on my channel. A lot of you have seen them. I've gone to a lot of different places. I hitch up my camper to my truck and I take off and I go and just enjoy a campground somewhere. It has long been my personal ambition to come to the end of my working life, hopefully if I can, and retire, God willing, and hitch up my camper and just head out and take all of you with me and go see the country. That's ultimately what I'd love to do, so I can be ranting and raving at you from the Grand Canyon, basically. So I have keen interest in RV living and RV life and camping and that sort of thing. And she mentions in her video how federal workers are losing their jobs. She singles out employees of national parks. Now, I'm in several groups on social media, like on Facebook, that have to do with national parks and Bureau of Land Management, BLM camping, and things like that. All these people, not all these people, but a lot of these people in these groups are just coming unglued about the prospect of Donald Trump cutting the budget of the national parks and cutting national park, not only their budgets, but cutting out park employees from national parks such as the Grand Canyon and Yosemite and places like that. And these people are just losing their minds over the fact that Trump has the audacity to cut the jobs of some of these federal workers. Now, I've got a kind of a different take about it, and I said in one group, I don't really get engaged. I commented one time and got eaten alive for it, but I don't care because this is how I feel. I said, you know, America exists, and this is from a guy who loves to camp, loves RV living, and loves the national parks. They're fantastic, but I said, you know, America existed before we had any national parks. That's true. Yosemite was the first, as far as I know. Not Yosemite, Yellowstone. But we had life in America before we had national parks. And if the termination of some federal park employees occurs, it's not really going to alter our life all that much. There's still going to be a Yellowstone tomorrow. There's still going to be a Grand Canyon and a Great Smoky Mountains tomorrow. They're all still going to be there. You might be inconvenienced just in terms of services offered or scheduling having to be altered somewhat, but they're still going to be there. But people are just losing their minds over this. I'm not. And I'm as big a fan of national parks as anybody else. But if they closed every one of them tomorrow, I'd keep on living, you know. I'd keep on living. You remember every time we come to the government shutdown scenario, and they always say that they're sending home non-essential workers, and I always say, if we have non-essential workers, then why do they have a job at all? If they're non-essential, then why are they employed in the first place? You know, when it comes time to trim the budget, trim the fat, balance the budget, as far as I'm concerned, everything should be on the table, and that includes national park employees. I'm sorry, I mean, as much as I love national parks and monuments and camping in national parks and all that. If we're going to be fair, folks, everything's got to be on the table. And if there are non-essential employees anywhere, it's time for them to get back into the real world. And this is what our dear little Melissa here doesn't understand. Most Americans live in the real world. You grow up, you get yourself educated, you acquire a skill or two or three or more, and then you go and you offer yourself in the marketplace with your skill set, and you get some gainful employment. That is the real world, okay? I'm not saying there aren't government employees who aren't essential. I'm sure there are. But if we have government employees who are on the dole and they're not really essential, as far as I'm concerned, out they go. This is the thing Elon Musk is identifying, and there are people who are howling over the fact that government workers are going to lose their jobs. Have you seen lately that lots and lots of houses, I've seen the graphic, houses all around the Beltway in Washington, D.C. are suddenly on the market? That's a great thing. Everybody that works in Washington should be no more special than any other American. Take your skills. If you're losing your job with the federal government, then take your skills and go get a job somewhere else, like everybody else has to do. If I lost my job tomorrow, this is why we save money, to prepare for such occurrences. I don't think that's going to happen, but if I did lose my job tomorrow, I would simply take the skills that I have and go back out into the marketplace, and I'd find another job. Might not be one I'd want, but I would find another job. That's what you do. And I am convinced there are lots of federal workers on the government dole who may just be there without the qualifications that they should have to have a regular job, if you follow me. Our federal workforce, and everybody knows it, is bloated. Our government is bloated, and thank God finally somebody is doing something about it. This is great news. There's great news all around, folks. So let the Melissas of the world whine about budget cutting, and let the Jamal Bryants of the world whine about white supremacy and white privilege and MAGA. But we're just going to keep on trucking, because there's a new sheriff in town, and he's got a man by his side that I think is doing us a great service. Look, we still got a lot of problems out there. I understand that, but it's so wonderful to be able to come before the cameras now and have great news. The greatest news of all, besides the budget cutting and all of this, we are pursuing peace, at least with Russia. Israel and Palestine's another story. But folks, I am absolutely convinced that Donald Trump has brought us back from the brink of nuclear war. I really believe that. I think that's where we were. But now we're sitting down at a table like civilized adults, and we're talking and trying to bring a war to an end. This is a great thing. Don't you believe? All right, look, that's what I got going on. Give me your comments down below. Love to hear from you. Give me a thumbs up on the video if you would. All the relevant links, you can email me or down below. Hey, buy me a cup of coffee. I love coffee. This is Trailer Trash Tim. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you soon.